All right, hello. Tuesday, London Open session. There we go. Starting with the Nasdaq. On the face of the place. Hello. Hi. New face. New face on the place. Yeah, daily chart still inside of this larger consolidation. Basically in the middle of the range. Nothing changed, or not much changed, rather. The levels that I outlined yesterday were technically hit. Let me clear those, but the price action during the morning session and the long open session was really sloppy. I'm not gonna lie. Sell side taken here. New week opening up can stay. All right. I want to add this Bessie here from Thursday's Asia. That's a discount rate that we are using near term. The lower last inefficiency inside of this price leg higher is here, and obviously the actual low so this is what we have on the downside of things. Well, on the upside, obviously the buy side rests now above those highs and those highs. Portion of the inefficiency is still open, but 15-minute bearish for value gap here. I will annotate that for completeness sake. With some measure of an inefficiency right there too. I'm watching if there is a volume imbalance in here or not. Right, so it seems like it's there. A slight. Yes. And it's technically on both sides of this inefficiency, which makes this a bullish suspension block. So that's how I want to annotate that. And right away, great this inefficiency here on the 15-minute. One quick look on the hourly. On the hourly, there is a bearish fair value gap right here, overtaking this low. Everything pretty balanced out on the upside, so technically I wouldn't say it requires any deeper retracements or whatsoever. Let's see, but I have this slight feeling that it might want to roll over a little bit lower. But let's see what ES is presenting at the moment. So ES has the buy side liquidity up there that's still open. It took buy side here, so it's kind of showing some SMT on the highs. It's, by the way, way stronger than Nasdaq, or relatively stronger than Nasdaq near term, looks like. 50-minute chart, we retraced lower. We left very smooth relative equal highs up here, just underneath those old relative equal highs up there. So that's definitely interesting. We do have a breaker here, a low, high, lower, low, moved away, and now we traded back into it just recently. Similar situation as a fair value gap here on the 50-minute, a fresh one, and trying to move away. Failed to touch the new week opening up high of the current week. That's interesting. Well, I mean, both these averages are technically in two different spots right now, so that's kind of tricky, I would say. Yeah, I mean, ES continuously making higher highs while Nasdaq was trading all the way lower. Now Nasdaq taking this low here, while ES didn't. ES did took out the buy side. So yet, I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out. That's what I'm trying to figure out so far. I mean, technically, yes, I like the buy side. Yes, that's definitely true. I like the buy side, but I'm just not quite sure the buy side is the way to go right now. So I would either require a little bit more information on or potential, or I mean, if potential downside continuation isn't likely, and based on ES, I would say potential continuation lower would be quite reasonable. I mean, near term at least, and maybe clearing that Sunday's low here. I mean, I wouldn't be too upset about that. At least that's the feeling that I'm having right now. So yes, it looks kind of sweet and nice that it wants to make a turnaround here. Can it do so? Certainly. But on ES, I like the new week opening up still as a potential draw, and or this low from the previous morning session seems to be a dandy in this type of scenario, I suppose. This is an inversion for value gap here. All right. So yeah, Nasdaq completely overshoot that, which makes ES potentially want to seek this level here, I believe. I mean, that's just a dandy. And I believe I will go with that initially, and we'll see what we get after all. So technically this would be like the next draw on the downside for Nasdaq, and this would be the next one for ES. respective amount of range. All right, so yeah, I mean the price was falling down through all of the Asia, and now it looks like it made a little bit of a low here, right above the actual discount array, which is the new week opening up. It looks like it made the low and traded higher, aggressively and impulsively, reloaded one more time, and to me that looks a little bit suspect though. I believe that a lot of people will want to get involved in longs in here, and they will look for ideas to get long, and some are definitely there, some patterns. So if that could have been faded, then obviously the sell liquidity here with the new week opening up, with all of that business, would be very, very, juicy objective still on the downside. So I guess that's the idea that I'm going with. And the 3 a.m. just started, so let's see what we get after all. But yeah, new week opening up, still potential raw liquidity. I would love to see a measure of SMT on the highs in here. I don't see that yet. Right. These are the highs respectively. And as I say, I would love to see a measure of SMT. Obviously, if it proves me wrong and shows that it wants to go continuously higher, then I will not want to stand against that. But I'm just thinking this session particularly, and I'm thinking that we moved lower, yes, but we didn't quite reach the areas, exactly the areas that I would like to see being reached on the downside, especially on ES. There you go, we poked for a higher high on both ES and Nasdaq. We have this premium week. That's basically linked to a bearish breaker. High, low, higher high. We broke below it, return back into it. So that's technically a premium array. This is technically an area where they can mitigate any longs from here and unbind them basically. So let's see. Both averages made a higher high here, which isn't necessarily what I was looking for, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, isn't this a lovely low to be a suspect low, a fake low? Like imagine price was dropping since Asia. All Asia fall down. Then it suddenly stops couple ticks above the discount rate that would be expected, and it rallies aggressively higher, strongly, makes a high, deep retracement, and a higher high here, clearing that buy side, relative equal highs now. And all of the sell side is, if not here, then here. But a lot of the sell side is below this low too, I believe. Yes, we have relative equal highs here. Yes, that's very smooth. And yes, there is still buy side on the upside overall. And I might change my mind. But just looking at this alone, I would kind of like lower prices still, especially on ES. Nasdaq did a deeper run already, so Nasdaq is a wild card, but ES could or should maybe offer a little bit of that weakness. All right, so far we poked the buy side, just hanging around, indecisive candles, volume imbalances being formed up there. So this is where the sell side liquidity resides near term. That's also a pretty obvious trendline phantom that's being built up here. Interesting. Definitely interesting. So let's see. Nonetheless, we've taken buy side. First, and we've taken technically relative equal highs. If I extend that line to the left, look at this. It's matching perfectly with this high, buy side taken or dived into, and now we are just hanging around, spending some time. And at a larger time frame breaker that's bearish. So yeah, I'm looking if you can show any displacement lower, if you can make any turnaround here. All right, so trade above those equal highs, which was resistance technically. So now, I mean, I would technically love to see it return back into it here as it does and offer a little bit of a rally higher, like a little bit of a reaction to the upside and then break aggressively. I mean, that would be lovely because that's resistance broken. Now it should act as support here, right? And look, it does initially. I mean, the body is respecting that. So a little bit of a rally of this level would set up a great fake run to then maybe sell it off. We'll see. All right, Nasdaq is losing a little bit of ground here too. Yes, I'm honestly, I mean, I'm personally willing to choose the ES versus Nasdaq right now because Nasdaq moved way more on the downside. Yes, it was weaker, but I believe ES has something to prove on the downside right now to match that Nasdaq downfall a little bit. And it took a lot of buys at too, so it kind of could or should be free to do that, especially as it's very close to its discount rates and liquidity. So that shouldn't be like a big issue for ES to match or run out those levels, I guess. So yeah, that was clean buy side liquidity here, taken out, and price is turning around. Let's see if we can manage a little bit of displacement. There is a small little fair value gap right here, but it's too small. It's too small for my liking, though. Too small for my liking, though. I could maybe utilize this inefficiency here as a potential inversion if we would offer that. It was used here a little bit, but disrespected that, send it lower here, used here. So now we return back into it. All right, so let's see if we can bulk up some higher high here. And on Nasdaq. So that's a small window of opportunity to see a potential SMT to form or facilitate. ES making a higher high, but Nasdaq is matching that right away. So both making a higher high. All right, showing some displacement here to the upside. I don't mind that. I don't mind that. I mean, I am not terribly bullish about it at the moment also, but But I believe if this then cleared out the buy side completely, then this definitely did. So this definitely triggered a lot of buy side liquidity. And if that's the case and the sell side is still true, it could act as a potential inversion for value gap in the future. So let's see this inefficiency, that's a BC. I would like to see price go or wilt below it, then use it as inversion to sell off. That's how I want to use it. I don't want to be buying here after relative equal highs were taken. And even if it goes higher, then I'll be glad to just let it go, I suppose. Some idea like this. Let's see nonetheless. Near term, both are screaming higher. Sharp higher highs made. So yeah, I mean, really, if we return back below this 313 BC, if we can do that, I would like to see it act as a bearish inversion for value gap, and I would like to see it send price lower towards the new week opening gap for the current week, and that would be like a setup for the long open session in my mind. No biggie if it doesn't do that, but that's what I'm definitely siding with at the moment. We've taken nice relative equal highs buy side. We made a high initially, relative equal highs by the way, made a low, strong run above that, so clearing any buy side definitely here. So if it could turn around, go below that, start wilting lower, that's the base case scenario, and that's what I'm looking for. Anything else, I'm really not interested as it is right now. All right, so looks like we are returning into that potential bearish inversion for value gap. We traded into this week of that bearish breaker. Couldn't close above the upper quadrant so far. Now wilting a little bit to the downside. I guess best case scenario would be around consecutive encroachment of the new week opening up. Yeah, something like this, roughly. That's like the best case scenario for this trade idea. So far, price is showing initial respect to the high of this BC. I mean, both ES and Nasdaq, they look quite extended off of this low here. That was impulsive, and this looks pretty extended to the upside. So lots of sell side will be resting here and here. I'm good, thanks for asking, Mr. M. Zane. Haven't seen you in a while. How about you? Well, that's lovely. That's lovely. Well. Let's see. So far, looks like both are pushing for the fences. Both are pushing for the short-term higher highs in here, and that's fine. If it wants to trade higher, as I said, I'm not necessarily um, interested in longs right now, so it can do so without me. But yeah, so far the averages are matching their highs quite well, continuously forming and purging the buy sell liquidity. But yeah, imagine we started at 3 a.m. here, this market, and since the 3 a.m. they just delivered higher to relative equal highs, clearing the buy side. So breakout artists are definitely there. They make two swing highs ever since that were also taken out rather convincingly. So anyone who was trying to short that initially got basically pounded. And now all of the liquidity, the counterparty liquidity, rests either here and or here. So wouldn't that be that convenient to do that and then wilt it completely lower? Rather than offering continuously higher and higher and higher and higher. Well, if it could do that, but yeah, that's not necessarily what I would like or without overall foresee. But yeah. Nonetheless, still gotta wait, and I'm waiting for this 313 inefficiency I want to see price go below it and then use it as inversion, and that's like the idea for me right now. If it could do that, I would be glad to go short and be content with 1, 2, 3 higher highs. It shouldn't go higher if it's bearish, and I would aim for the easy liquidity here and here, with the best case scenario at consecutive encroachment of this new week opening up for the current week. And that's basically the idea. That's basically the idea in layman's terms. Will it give it to me? Will it deliver? I don't know. It might not. I'm just watching. Still, there is still quite some time to go for this particular session, silver bullet session. So it's definitely in the cards, I would say. But yeah, still gotta wait for things to materialize in chart. And yeah, and we'll see. All right, Nasdaq looks like it sharply rejected already here. Also, these 3 sharp higher highs, that looks jagged as hell after the buy side was taken here, returning to its own busy. This is a potential for an SMT to form, because ES is more prompt to make a short-term higher high versus Nasdaq at this current moment. So if we could see that short-term high be taken and then rejected and then go below this busy, that's best case scenario technically. Having that SMT behind the move then. So that's pretty much what I was looking for in terms of SMT. Let me take this off quickly. So we have this high. All right, not quite a higher high on the week basis yet. It could still poke above it, but even that, if we consider the bodies only, the 323 high on the body is now lower than this current high, while on Nasdaq the 323 high is clearly not matching. Yes, and also the wick was pierced, so we have both higher highs on the wicks and on the bodies, while Nasdaq is matching neither of those. Neither wicks and or bodies aren't matched, which might be a precursor to an actual SMT divergence that could be very convenient with the idea that I'm trying to paint all together. So nonetheless, this inefficiency is still key actor for this movie, and I would love to see price smash below it and then use it as inversion, and that's where I'm looking for opportunity. So yeah, I guess worst case it just keeps on going higher. I mean, keep on grinding higher. And if it does that, then I mean, there's nothing, literally nothing I can do about it. And I will let it go basically. But this is the SMT. That high is not matched on Nasdaq. Nasdaq didn't make a higher high, while ES did. It's a very little near-term, short-term type of occurrence right now, but if it stays like this and we start displacing lower, turning around, that will add a little bit of fuel to the overall move, I believe. So it's not like it's, you know, a setup in itself right now, I would say. But if we would roll over, then I would use that hint as a additional way of confirmation. All right, I like this turnaround here. I like that. All right, so Nasdaq is pushing way deeper into its BC here already. 330 started also, so some measure of protracted movement would be expected reasonably. But I'm still waiting to meet the criteria that I'm looking for in terms of going below this BC to use it as resistance to send it lower. That's the idea. Right, still waiting. Still waiting. ES went into some measure of holding pattern here. Still waiting for the price to wilt lower more aggressively. Any displacement to the downside would be literally ideal. Best case scenario. All right, looks like Nasdaq is wilting through that BC already, almost heading to the low. ES is reluctant to do so. I mean, just now, it has yet to reach down into it. So let's see how it does. I would love to see this candle close at the low instead of giving that a little pullback to the upside in at the end. Low of that BC is being engaged on Nasdaq. Yes, not quite there, but it's technically looking to go inside of this BC, which I mean that's what I'm looking for, right? But so technically we had a volume imbalance here, but we couldn't reach up into it by any means, so it was left open. Then we broke again lower and it formed another volume imbalance here that we traded to the low but couldn't really get up into inside of it, right? Especially with the bodies, so no bodies and no bodies. So these two volume imbalances could potentially act as little breakaway gaps, I would say, if they could stay open. I would like to see that. Behind the idea that I'm having, I would love to see that. But yeah, obviously we'll see. But if we could go below this 313 BC, leaving those volume imbalances open with that little SMT on the highs, that would really start looking quite convenient for the price to see a more sustained price run lower. At least that's the theory. Alright, so far it couldn't even do that again. Couldn't even reach up into this volume balance on this candle, or this candle opened way lower. So it looks a little bit heavy, it looks a little bit turning around here, especially after many buy side liquidity pools were being taken rather sharply. So now giving a touch to this BC, and best case scenario, I just want to roll over through that rather quickly. 1-2 candles that could take us below it would be ideal. But let's see, initially it traded to the high of it, now making a reaction to the upside. So this volume imbalance would be or should be reasonably easy to reach for the price. It does touch the low. I mean, that's completely acceptable, but I'm just watching or looking for like underlying heaviness, right? So I don't necessarily want to see those arrays being closed, those inefficiencies being closed. But if we trade up into this, for example, and then react aggressively lower, that's also pretty heavy and or bearish in nature. So far, we opened here, traded up to the low of this volume imbalance, but closed way lower. So couldn't quite reach convincingly inside of it. The next candle opened up, trade again to the low, and we'll see where it will close. But any displacement lower off of that, it's already showing that it can't even reach up into these inefficiencies. And these are technically strong draws on liquidity on the upside if they are there, because there is no volume presented inside of that. So it's really inefficient. All right, so again, we trade to the low of this volume balance, barely with the wick, and the bodies are closing lower. So really what I want to see is a measure of displacement to the downside and getting involved inside of this busy so that I could potentially use it as inversion. Another candle opened, couldn't even breach the consecutive encroachment of those 2 weeks, and it closed lower. So it really warrants a displacement lower at this moment. That's what I'm looking for. The body is stopping perfectly at the consecutive encroachment of this week. That's a beautiful signature if you can see a measure of displacement to the downside. And this is exactly what we are starting to see. So I love to see that though. I really like to see that. Nasdaq already closed below its own base here, but again, I'm not necessarily interested in Nasdaq that much. My attention is in ES, and I have already a very clear picture, clear idea what I want to do with this. All right, nice measure of displacement here. Weakness, heaviness being indicated. So now let's see if we can smash right on through this BC and use it as a bearish inversion for value gap instead. Any nice displacement CB would be welcome too. I'm not a fan of this close here. So it took relatively cool lows, sell side, traded into this BC and closed exactly at the high. Not a huge fan, but let's see what it does out of this. Small little bearish for value gap. So yeah, I mean, no problem. If it doesn't offer me that inversion here, then that's fine. I had no trade to worry about. 3 minutes until the 350 to 410 macro. So that's probably like the last chance for me to get involved if it offers me what I want or what I'm looking for. So let's see another attempt to reach up into this volume imbalance, but so far it touched the low perfectly and then miserably failed to maintain any close above the open, which is technically bearish here. That's technically still a bearish sign. It even gapped lower the next candle, but I'm still looking for a little bit of a displacement, a little bit of running through this low, maybe with a CB, closing below consecutive encroachment at least of this BC. These type of signatures I'm looking for, because that would be hinting that the expansion is being proposed. But yeah, at the same time, this BC works as a filter, right? If in anyhow I'm completely offside and it will rip higher without going below it, then worst case scenario, I'm just not gonna engage any trades, and I'll be just fine though. Then so yeah, another little volume imbalance in here. Nasdaq keeps being heavy too, and the macro started just now. So yeah, I mean that's like the best time to inverse this for value gap and or offer any any other premium array to sell at, I guess. All right, starting with nice displacement to the downside. Yes, I mean, I would love to see this candle close at the low or very near the low, and not have like a large or a long wick coming from the downside. Yeah, I mean, this is not something I would like to see, right? It couldn't reach the consecutive encroachment, came all the way up, and the body closed at the high of the busy. So that's exactly what I didn't want to see. Trying to return up into that volume imbalance here. It should have no problems whatsoever to do that, but so far it's kind of failing, so interesting. All right, I like this little failure here. That's nice. And we have this week here that's premium now as we went below it, and we see another measure of displacement to the downside. So that's probably where we could see it. Yes, we went below it. I'm clicking the sell limit right away. Not waiting for the close. Why? Because it already showed a lot of heaviness here. So yeah, any return up into this, I want to get short. Stop loss is in place technically, and we'll see. Close below it, that's perfect. Tapped me in, and now it's technically the showtime. So let's see. So technically this is like my first partial, I believe. So I can take 4 off around there, trim the position to even then, and let it ride, I believe. So let's see, that's the idea. So far we gave a touch to this inversion, left an inefficiency. I would love to see this inefficiency stay open. That's CB, and just heavy slide lower. That would be like the best case scenario. Yeah, nonetheless, let's prepare the orders. So I want to buy back 4, so 50% here. All right. And cancel that, and I want to be buying back the remaining 4 here, and the rest will be managed accordingly. along the way. So we'll see. Right, so I mean, at this point, any returns back into that inversion for value gap should be capped in the lower half. So no bodies should be allowed in the upper half, technically, right? And best case it doesn't even come back to it at this point and just rolls over. But a return to it would be permissible for sure, as long as it's not really closing above that inversion for value gap, especially the high consecutive encroachment, preferably, right? Preferably. All right. So let's see if we can see a rollover here. Continuation to the downside, displacement, because in my opinion, we did a lot of work already here. So they had plethora of time to be selling. And now we started the displacement. We start to expand lower. So I would expect it should relatively quickly be attacking towards the sell-side liquidity here, and maybe finally into that new week opening up. It should be rather quick in its delivery. That's what I love to see. Displacement. It couldn't even return back into this inversion. It's really heavy. It's really heavy. So it should have no issues, no problems to reach the sell side liquidity here. That's minor sell side, I think. Indeed, that's a very, very pristine price action for the long open session here. Small little volume imbalance in here. All right, some wicked return to that inversion for value gap here. But I guess that's permissible as long as the bodies are staying in the lower half. All of that is technically permissible, I would say. So I'm trying not to worry about it as long as no bodies are closing above the consecutive encroachment. By the way, we tapped to the low of that inversion quickly and aggressively, but it gave almost 90% of its range, and it's closing technically near the low. I mean, near the open rather than near the close. So that's technically bearish still. So as long, I mean, now we place this long wick here. So preferably I would not like to see price close above the consecutive encroachment. Preferably I would like it to cap any runs higher and then turn around and start to speed up a little bit on the downside. Because yeah, we did a lot of slower price action here, right? Accumulating, and now we are in the phase of running for liquidity. So it should be rather fast. So I mean that's a little bit concerning here in terms of how they deliver that, because they opened here, quickly smashed higher to that inversion, then quickly smashed lower here, and we are in the middle, back in the middle. This piece of price action here feels like a little bit of a manual intervention, like a little bit of manipulation in itself. It doesn't necessarily change the overall picture, I believe, of the grand scheme of things. It doesn't necessarily change that, but it feels a little bit unruly right now. So let's see. But yeah, nonetheless, the price action looks heavy though. So if the draw on liquidity is correct on my side, on my part, if the draw is correct, it should have rather no bigger problems to get there with this backdrop, I believe. But yeah, unless I'm completely offside with the draw, it should be rather a rather easy downfall. Well, I mean, a little bit of a pause here, and not a huge fan of that, I feel like, but let's see. Still, technically, it's it's screaming lower. But I would like to see a measure of expansion below this low here. That's like something I would really look for. This low being taken out with a measure of continuation below it. Two minutes left until the end of the macro here. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't like how it's taking much time in here, but I guess there's nothing to do about it. As long as it stays below that inversion for value gap that I entered on, I think it should be looking for lower prices, and I mean eventually it should get released, right? The macro has just ended, so I'm looking the next 5 minutes possibly to see a move out of it, and hopefully it does the displacement lower that I'm looking for, especially through that short-term low that it placed right now. All right, so it looks like it's preparing a return back into that inversion, which I mean, obviously it's better if it doesn't, but looks like it's unavoidable here, and I feel like it should be permissible, right? As long as it stays below it and resists that, it should be permissible though. So let's see, that's like make or break type of point, this return. I don't want to see a close above consecutive encroachment. We traded to the consecutive encroachment, close slightly below it. So best case scenario, it should turn around here and trade lower from where it is. If it closes above it, I'm cutting the bait, and I'm cutting the trade because it shouldn't have done it. Yeah, it shouldn't close above that for sure at this point. If I'm correct on my assumptions, it should have not done it. And it looks like it will, though. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't even wait that long, but it's definitely closing above, so I'm closing it and saving my stop right here. Quick look on the Nasdaq. Yeah, Nasdaq turning around, not quite to this inversion, but also offering some measure of rally. So, well, nonetheless, interesting example, that's for sure. I still feel this idea was quite reasonable, or I felt that this idea was quite reasonable until it did this weird wicking up and down and went into consolidation. That's where when I said it looks like a manual intervention, and after that the price really went to us. But yeah, nonetheless, was an interesting one for sure. Turned against me, but yeah, that's life, I suppose. That's life. First loss on the series here, I mean on the fund account. I just yesterday came to break even with the wins and losses, but today I'm adding another loss. Yeah. Yep. I'm just watching shortly whether I would hit a full stop loss or not. Quite likely that I would, or that I would. But regardless, at this point, with this price action here, holding to that short, in my opinion, would be, even if it will fall off and go lower, That's more of a like re-entry idea rather than just holding it for a full stop loss or nothing, because it could have easily could gone for the full stop out, and that wouldn't be a good management overall, I believe. So yeah, regardless. Well. But all right, fine. That's it for me for today, I suppose. I'll be back tomorrow with more action slash price action, and yeah, thanks for watching, and see you guys. Tomorrow. I will have to swallow that one, and yeah, go to the next one. No reason to worry. Thanks. No AM session today. No, because I took a trade already. Bye.